Hey there, self-care warriors. Welcome back to Self-Care Haven. So today I just wanted to make a kind of half vlog and half real video um, because I recently had the privilege of seeing New York Times bestselling author Gabrielle Bernstein live in New York this past weekend. And I wanted to make a Valentine's Day themed weekend video, but I didn't get the chance to. So sorry about that because I know that there's so many survivors who did have a hard time on Valentine's Day. But I hope that this video can be of service today. So the speaking event that I saw Gabrielle in was a judgment detox workshop. And this is very interesting because if you've been reading my blog from the very beginning, you know that I've written a blog entry about Marianne Williamson when she came to my university and spoke live. And for those of you who don't know Marianne Williamson, she's an internationally known spiritual guru and best-selling author as well. And she draws a lot of her philosophy from A Course in Miracles. And Gabrielle was inspired by her to write her own books. And she does it in a different style, but she also speaks about her philosophy in the Course in Miracles tradition. If you don't know what Course in Miracles is, and you're interested, I encourage you to look it up. But I didn't want to really focus on that too much today. I wanted to focus more on what I derived from the Judgment Detox workshop. But I just want to provide a little background about that because this is a kind of dialogue that I've been trying to start through my blog and through my videos. And this dialogue is centered around this idea that your crisis is your transformation. And as you know, I have been referencing more of a spiritual side in my videos because I think that spirituality has definitely helped me transcend and overcome the adversity that I've experienced in my own life. And I hope that survivors can also reconnect with something larger than themselves, whether it is a spiritual philosophy. It doesn't have to be a religion. Even if you're just believing in your own inner guidance and higher self, it can really help. And I'm not trying to impose any type of philosophy onto you. This is not what that is. um, I want to encourage survivors to believe in whatever they want to believe, as long as it empowers them. And I want you to know that whatever you believe is valid, and if it empowers you, then all the more power to you. But yes, Judgment Detox Workshop, let's go back to that. So this is very interesting because I've been trying to bridge this kind of gap that I've always seen, and between the kind of spiritual perspective of, well, everything that's happened to you can help you transcend, and everything that's happening to you has the power to uncover your wounds and has the power to heal them if you see that it's happening to you and if you realize what wounds are being addressed. And then there's also that stance that maybe that's a little bit too victim blaming. Maybe that's just going too far, and maybe that's justifying too much of the trauma and abuse that we've experienced. And it's been very difficult for me because I think that I am very spiritual, and I definitely feel like it has helped me transcend a lot of what I've experienced. And I know that other survivors have also felt that themselves in their own lives, and they've used spirituality. But I think there's still that gap. I think there's still that conflict. And I think it can be too simplified to say that it's all about you. I think that there has to be a balance. And I always say that there's a distinction between victim blaming and owning your agency. And as I talked about in my interview, I feel as if abuse and trauma definitely hinders our sense of perceived agency. And I've been reading a lot of amazing books about trauma recently, and just how far trauma can go, how it lives in our bodies and our minds, how it changes the brain so drastically, and how it can affect us for our entire lifetime. And while I think that, and I do believe that healing is a lifelong journey, while I believe that trauma has the ability to make us more psychologically resilient, I also want to validate the pain. I want to validate all the pain that survivors have gone through and how it has changed them. Because I know that pain, and I know that it can be frustrating if you have a philosophy that tells you, well, you should just forgive. And that can be very difficult. No, that's very difficult. And I speak about this in my own writing. I say that if you're not ready to forgive, you don't have to. You don't have to forgive right now. You shouldn't force yourself to forgive unless you're ready. And trying to force yourself is not going to make things better. It's probably going to shift the perspective to self-blame. And no matter what I've gone through, I feel as if there's one thing that has really helped me, that's been very effective for me, and that is dissolving that sense of self-blame and negative self-talk. The reaction to trauma can leave us filled with a lot of self-doubt, a great deal of toxic shame, and a great deal of negative self-talk. And we need to be more mindful of the way we speak to ourselves. If we're speaking to ourselves as if we are the perpetrators of our trauma, then we're going to slow down the recovery process. And you know what? That toxic shame is a symptom of the trauma that you've experienced. That negative self-talk, all those judgments are symptoms of that trauma. But it's not the real you. That deep core being inside of you knows who you really are, and knows that you are not those things that you tell yourself late at night, those negative things. So I want you to understand that your negative self-talk is not a reflection of who you really are. It is a program in your mind that's repeating itself because of the traumas that you've experienced, because of the things that people have said to you, because of the way that you may have been raised, perhaps, the way you've been bullied, the way you've been treated, mistreated, and abused. Those programs in your mind are not the reflection of who you really are. And while I think that some spiritual philosophies can take it a little bit too far and can be on the verge of victim blaming, I think it's right on point when it acknowledges that we are really divine beings, so unique, so incredible, and so worthy and valuable. And those are the types of words that we should be saying to ourselves on a daily basis. Because that toxic shame is not your fault, and neither is the negative self-talk. Don't judge your judgments, but observe them. Be a little bit more mindful. After you watch this video, I want you to start being a little bit more mindful of the stories you're telling yourself, the narratives you're telling yourself. And while I don't think that everything that I learned in the Judgment Detox workshop can apply to abuse survivors, because I think that there's still that gap, there's still that conflict in the spiritual community about how it addresses trauma, and I feel there needs to be a lot more validation of the types of traumas that we can experience, especially if it's chronic trauma over the course of a lifetime, especially in the realm of forgiveness, especially in the realm of believing that it's all only your wounding and not another person's wounding that's creating the wounding as well. Because there can be simultaneous wounding. I don't know how to describe it. Okay, I'll try to describe it. So simultaneous wounding, I feel, is more like a person is bringing up your wounds, but they're also manufacturing a lot of wounds as well. So it can be simultaneous. It can be your past wounds coming up, but then there's that other layer of wounds that the abuser and the perpetrator is creating in you at the same time. So it's like wound upon wound, trauma upon trauma, and imagine a lifetime of chronic trauma and abuse. And imagine what that does to your brain. Imagine how you've been wired so differently if you've gone through that type of lifetime's worth of trauma. It doesn't mean that you're damaged goods. It doesn't mean anything like that. It just means that you're a survivor. It just means that you're a warrior. And I think there's still that gap, again, in the spiritual community about that. I think that there's still that conflict about things like law of attraction, victim blaming, owning our agency. There's all sorts of really, really heated debates on topics like that. And I think it's important to empower yourself with the philosophies that really align with your own values. Don't go with a certain philosophy because you feel you have to. Go with it because it resonates with what is deep within your heart and your soul and your mind and your body. If you have a negative reaction to a type of philosophy, don't try to go through it and promote it or advocate for it just because you feel like everybody else is. Believe in yourself, believe in your own truth. Believe that whatever beliefs that you have right now or in the future will serve you as they should serve you. And if you have beliefs that may go against the grain, that's fine, as long as they empower you and they don't hurt or harm others. It's really time to embrace what we believe and, don't judge others who may have different beliefs as you, because it might really help them. Whatever spiritual path they have, whatever spiritual path they're on, it's helping them if it's empowering them. So let them be. And you are free to choose your own path. But I hope you choose a path that empowers you, that allows you to feel as if you're connected with this larger world around you, and that you can give back to that community as much as you can give to yourself. Even before you start giving back to the community, start giving to yourself. Start talking compassionately towards yourself. Self-compassion was so key to a great deal of my own journey. And self-compassion, whatever philosophy you believe, try to incorporate self-compassion in it. Try to incorporate a non-judgmental stance towards yourself. You don't have to judge what you're thinking about yourself or the way you treat or talk to yourself. You simply have to observe it mindfully. And all those judgments that are coming up for you about yourself, about whatever you've been through, just observe them mindfully and choose something different to tell yourself. It doesn't have to be something drastically different. It can just be one step up. If you've been telling yourself that, well, I'm worthless, then start to tell yourself, no, I have worth. I am worthy. I am beautiful. I am brilliant. I am this. I am that. Everything that you say to yourself matters. Like I talked about with that image of trauma upon trauma upon trauma, there's another layer, and that's the story that you're telling yourself every day. The story about the trauma. And many times we can't even help it. It's very automatic. It comes up. It's this negative self-talk. It's that self-sabotage. And it is those ruminating thoughts about flashbacks and abusive words that we've experienced. Again, don't judge it. Just observe it. Observe what is coming up for you. And try to replace it with things that really recognize and honor your own worth. Create that reverse discourse. I talk about a lot about this in my first book, Create That Reverse Discourse, to the narrative that your abusers have written for you. And changing that narrative for me personally, I felt that that was one of the major shifts I made in my life, was just changing that narrative. Being able to talk back to that negative voice. Because I knew that it was a false voice that was created by the people around me, that it was not my real divine self. And that's where my spirituality comes in, because I truly believe that each and every one of us has that higher self. It's that core being of light that no one can take away from you. So whatever spiritual path you're on, whatever faith or set of beliefs that you have, make sure that it's something that empowers you, that enables you to create that reverse discourse, and allows you to have a compassionate stance towards yourself. Practice self-compassion, even if it's just a little bit every day, through a meditation, a yoga practice, a walk outside, or even just a luxurious bubble bath. Practice self-compassion, even if it's just one word that says, I forgive myself. One mantra that says, I forgive myself. Do some mirror work. Look in the mirror and say, I forgive myself. Use a self-compassion meditation exercise. There's so many compassion meditations on YouTube, and you can easily find one that suits your needs. Just do anything that you can, even a small step today, that allows you to curb some of that self-sabotaging negative self-talk. Because shifting that narrative of self-blame can be really, really crucial to the healing journey. When we shift from that narrative of self-blame and that toxic shame, which is often really lodged deep within our bodies, in our minds, and all that toxicity of those experiences can be very difficult to let go of, I know. And I'm not asking you to let them go right now. I'm just asking that you engage in these small steps to start to empower yourself. Start to talk back. Talk back to the negative voice inside your head, whether it's a voice created by your abuser, your parent, your caregiver, bullies you've encountered throughout your lifetime, naysayers, people who criticize you. Whatever it is created by, know that it is a false voice that does not recognize and honor your worth. I want to create a kind of an abuse survivor judgment detox plan. And I want to tell you that you should stop judging yourself. And it's easier said than done. Easier said than done. Most definitely easier said than done. But even before you stop trying to judge others, stop trying to judge yourself. Every day, make a commitment that you'll start judging yourself a little bit less every day. Whether it's judging yourself for the way you look, act, think, react. Whether it's judging yourself for the abuse and trauma you've experienced. Whether it's judging yourself thinking that you were somehow to blame for the abuse. Whatever it may be, just judge yourself a little less every day. So I want to hear from you. What are some of the judgments that you've been engaging in and you feel like you can replace with more empowering alternative thoughts? And I also want to hear from you about your own spiritual perspective. Do you have a type of faith or spiritual belief or philosophy, or perhaps a set of beliefs that have helped you on your healing journey? And if you feel as if spirituality has helped you, or even if it's harmed you, I encourage you to share your story in the comment section below. Are there beliefs that you feel are damaging or victim blaming? Do you believe that there are also beliefs that are empowering? Share your journey with me and let other survivors know what you think about spirituality, as well as your negative self-talk. And I hope that we can start a movement for our own kind of judgment detox for abuse survivors. in terms of just curbing that negative self-talk, curbing that self-sabotage, and start improving on the way that we talk to ourselves, the way that we speak to ourselves, the way that we view ourselves, because we are really beautiful, amazing human beings. And we deserve to talk to ourselves, speak to ourselves, view ourselves compassionately. So serve yourself a dish of self-compassion today and this week. I hope to talk to you soon. Please do subscribe if you haven't already to get an update on whenever I upload my videos. I'll talk to you soon. Until then, take care.